Now, the House just passed an election security measure on Thursday that would require voting systems to use backup paper ballots, something that I've been pushing for some time, in federal elections, while also mandating improvements to election machines. Now, the measure known as Securing America's Federal Elections Act passed on Thursday, and what it would do is it would authorize $600 million for states to bolster their election security. Now, that's good. That's, $600 million. It's a decent amount given to each state to basically modernize, update, and bolster their voting machines and election security, right? Great. Now, it would also give states $175 million biannually to help sustain their election infrastructure. All right, okay. Now, a part of it would also require implementation of cybersecurity safeguards for hardware and software used in elections, which I think what we should do is just completely get rid of voting machines and just replace them with paper ballots. But they're not going that far in this piece of legislation. Now, it would also bar the use of wireless communications devices in election systems and require electronic voting machines to be manufactured in the United States. That last one seems like a no-brainer. If you're going to use an election machine, you would want it to be made here because you don't know. It's like if you're buying them from China, what's to stop China from putting something in there that they could, like a back door that they could sneak into, right? And change vote totals or election counts or wipe data or do whatever kind of nefarious thing that they would want to do, right? So, yeah, no-brainer, right? Now, it's not a perfect piece of legislation, but it's better than what we have. So great. I mean, the Democrats, and I got on them for a while, talking about Russia, they're getting into our elections, they're hacking into our systems, etc. And I'm like, well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you put together a bill to stop that, right? If that's what you're so worried about. Well, now they have, to their credit, right? But what about Republicans? Now, Republicans also complain about election security, right? Except they only do so when it comes to undocumented immigrants, right? So that's the only security they seem to be interested in. But still, where do they fall in this bill? Did they at least take a look and say, okay, you know what, I could agree with this, just to prevent foreign actors from being able to easily get into our electoral system? Well, it turns out the full chamber had voted 225 to 184 to send the bill to the Senate. There was one Republican, Florida Representative Brian Mast, who voted for this measure. All the Democrats voted for it. You had one Republican in favor. Wait a minute. What's the deal here? Do Republicans not care about election security after all? What's going on? Well, according to Roll Call magazine, Republicans had acknowledged the urgent need for progress in securing the nation's election systems. But you got a funny way of showing it by voting against a election security measure that easily passed the House of Representatives. So now, why vote against this? Well, because federal overreach. Oh, for Christ's sakes. All right. This is according to Republican Representative Rodney Davis. He said this, quote, Democrats' bill focuses on forcing states to restructure their election systems through federal mandates and ignores states' rights to choose the election system that best fits their unique needs. Well, what have the states done so far when it comes to election security? Not a whole lot from what I know. Now, the Illinois Republican has proposed his own election security legislation, which appears to be very sparse on details right now. But he says it, quote, focuses on empowering states and local election officials to update voting infrastructure. Okay, so I think I know what the plan here is, right? The Republican plan is, hey, federal government, why don't you just hand us some money to the states and let us figure it out? Well, now, wait a minute. What's to prevent states from using that money to plug their budget holes as they use a lot of money to do so? I mean, without the details, without some sort of constraints or controls, we don't know what it entails. What does it entail? More details, right? Again, with Republicans, it tends to be, if they're granted block money, block grant money, then they end up doing whatever they want with it, and it's usually not the purpose that it was sent there for. But see, here's the thing, right? The other thing on, well, I mean, it's government overreach. We want our own, each of our own states to have their own system. Well, the thing is, the Russians or the Chinese, they're not going to be doing cyber attacks against Oklahoma. They're going to do it against the United States government. Now, that has an impact on all of us. If you mess with the system in Ohio, for example, then because it's inadequate, or doesn't have the same standard as for example, California or New York, they're not running on the same platform, the same kind of system, where you can go and you can send experts to figure out how to fix it or how to plug security holes or stop vulnerabilities. Well, then you could seriously mess up an election. So it doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't it be stupid to have every state have their own way? I mean, to me, it sounds really dumb. But the bill did pass the House. Now it goes to the Senate, where it reportedly faces stiff opposition from Republicans. In fact, so far, Mitch McConnell has refused to allow votes on any election security proposals, citing concerns that measures erode state authority over elections. You know what they call Mitch McConnell? The Grim Reaper. That's what Mitch McConnell calls himself. He's like, you can just call me the Grim Reaper because I kill everything that comes to the floor. Oh, you want to do something in the Senate to protect our elections? Nope, not going to happen. Oh, because it's a win for Democrats. It's a political win. Or maybe it's the fact that Mitch McConnell doesn't care about election security. You can talk about states' rights and use states' rights as a screen all day, but they're not just attacking Alabama. No, they're helping all of us. Earlier today, there was a massive DDoS attack from China that took out Cloudflare, right? Now, Cloudflare is, you have a lot of websites, about maybe 70% of the internet that uses Cloudflare, that just got knocked out today. There's a lot of websites that were out. And so maybe you want to start looking at security. If they can do that to commercial stuff, they can certainly do it to our election stuff. Now, of course, it doesn't help. I'd be remiss if I didn't actually address the fact that we are also doing cyber attacks against other countries. For example, we've been launching cyber attacks against Russia. Now, you guys probably don't know that, right? But earlier this month, there was a New York Times report where it said that we are actually launching and trying to implant malware deep inside of Russian systems. And that apparently the defense secretary went and did an end run against Donald Trump. They don't even have to tell him that it's going on. So he had no clue that it was happening. In fact, the incursion, they said, into the Russian electric power grid seems to have been conducted under new legal authorities in the military authorization bill passed by Congress last year. Now, how come nobody knew about that? How come Donald Trump didn't know that it took power away from him? Oh, that's right, because he doesn't read. Now, under the law, the defense secretary can authorize, without special presidential approval, routine clandestine military activity in cyberspace. That's amazing. Now the defense secretary basically can conduct cyber warfare without even telling the president. Who is he accountable to anymore? No one. Well, that is not what we should, the kind of system that we should have. We're supposed to have checks and balances. The president is supposed to be informed. Yes, I realize the president is a moron who's probably going to take the side of Russia no matter what. But he should still know. All right? We need to go through the proper stuff. Now, in interviews with current and former government officials, and this is how we found out, right? Over the past 3 months with the Times, officials described the deployments of U.S. computer code into Russia's grid and other targets as part of a shift to a more offensive strategy. Again, without Trump knowing it. As for him not knowing about it, Pentagon and intelligence officials described to the Times broad hesitation to tell Trump about the details of the operations against Russia. They tell the Times that there was concern over how Donald Trump would react. and the possibility that Trump might reverse the operations or discuss it with foreign officials. So, look, I can understand the reasoning, but you still can't do that. Again, Trump's a man baby who loves Putin. But going around the president to launch clandestine military activity against another country? That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And the fact that we're doing this right now, that the defense secretary is launching all these cyber attacks against other countries, Russia, maybe China, who knows where else. We don't even have a secure electoral system here in the country because of Republicans, because of Mitch McConnell, that are saying, well, we can't do that because the overreach. No, that's so stupid. Mitch McConnell's an idiot. Either that, or again, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if somebody actually does, and they didn't. Look, you guys know that I don't believe that they changed vote total. They didn't change vote totals in 2016. They, didn't really do all of that. What they ended up doing is a spear phishing campaign and ended up getting, access to Hillary Clinton's emails, right? You don't think that they couldn't hack into our electoral system and actually change the votes? They didn't, but they could. They could. And so I'm not saying go to war with Russia, go to war with China for knocking off Cloudflare, and making it so that I couldn't look up a story earlier. No, I'm not saying that. I'm also, what I'm saying is that maybe we should stop doing cyber war against other countries. And if we're going to, then we should at least make sure we're protected at home by passing cyber security bills. But again, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, they don't want to do that. And so either they massively underestimate the Russians or the Chinese or anybody else who might try to hack into our systems, or they don't care about other nations meddling in our elections if it benefits them. And those are two very scary ideas. Very scary things. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.